Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our World Ocean Day Hangouts. We have an incredible day lined up of hangouts with experts in ocean exploration and science all over the world. This is our second year running this, and we're going to be hanging out with tens of thousands of students across North America. So it's going to be an incredible, incredible day. It is my great pleasure to introduce Fabien Cousteau today. He spent his early years aboard his grandfather's famous ships, which instilled a lifelong passion for our ocean. In June of 2014, he led a team of aquanauts on Mission 31, the longest science expedition to take place on Aquarius, the world's only underwater laboratory in Florida. My class was lucky enough to connect with Fabien at the midpoint of that mission. Currently, he's working on multiple projects and dedicates much of his time to the Fabien Cousteau Ocean Learning Center. So it's a nonprofit he launched last year as a vehicle to make positive change in our world. So Fabien, always a pleasure to host you on a Google Hangout.
Oh, a great pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
All right, so I know you're somewhere special today. What are you up to today?
Well, today being World Ocean Day, as we all know, is a very special day, although every day is World Ocean Day. Here, we're celebrating the culmination of heads of state, of individuals, of voices for the ocean at the United Nations for the first ever World Ocean Day conference at the UN.
All right, and the Ocean Learning Center, this is so exciting. I was so excited to hear about this being launched last year. I was going to do some incredible things with the connections you have around the world and the science and research that you do. Can you tell us a little bit about the Ocean Learning Center and how it came about?
Well, the Ocean Learning Center is a brainchild of what I've learned at Mission 31 and being able to connect with young people around the world, all 100,000 plus of them, and the real need, desire, and hopefully hunger for the mysteries of the sea, of course, what ails us, and how to fix all these things that we've set up for ourselves with regard to ocean health. That said, it comes all together from a very simple thing that my grandfather used to say, which is people protect what they love what they understand, and they understand what they're taught. And with that in mind, we as individuals are part of the solution, and we as individuals need to be engaged in various ways to create new and innovative ways to help cure the problems that we've set out there. So with the Ocean Learning Center, there are various platforms, basically in three categories. I call them see, learn, and do. The C categories are audiovisual, edutainment, if you will. The learn is symposiums and groups of young people sharing ideas and knowledge about what they've implemented in their own communities and how that's worked so that we can spread those successes elsewhere in other communities through young people. And the third one, of course, is I call them edutational activities, which are really restoration programs such as planting mangroves, releasing baby sea turtles, and of course, my favorite, my latest one, which is 3D printing of coral reefs. So we quite literally use calcium carbonate and 3D printers. We put those things together and print corals to restore coral reefs.
That's incredible. I didn't realize that 3D technology could be used in that way. That's a very exciting project. That's awesome.
I've never been one for the status quo, and sometimes I have some crazy ideas, and occasionally a crazy idea works. Like I say, never use the word impossible. Anything is possible if you try. You just have to find the right solution. And in this particular case, with coral reefs, it's kind of fun to be able to get to print in any shape you want a coral and use it for actual coral restoration. It's pretty awesome.
I'm with you 100% on that one. That is incredible. So as a diver myself, I have to ask you, what was your last dive?
Oh, geez. I've been diving into a lot of meetings these days, but my last dive was in the Cayman Islands 2 weeks ago in Grand Cayman. So I was there for a SeaTech conference, and I snuck away one day for a few hours, and I got a chance to snorkel and dive with the rays and sharks.
Awesome. A little warmer than my recent diving in the Great Lakes. Definitely a little warmer.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh, the Great Lakes are fantastic, though, with the shipwrecks and you can see all the zebra and quagga mussels and look at that biodiversity shift and change with the invasive species. On a scientific level, it's fascinating. And of course, on the level of environment, it's quite alarming. But as far as, I don't know if you're a shipwreck aficionado, but that is a fantastic place for that.
I agree with you 100%. Fathom 5, Tobermory Marine Park is absolutely incredible. And then there was a wreck I was diving on in Lake Huron over the course of 2 years. And the 1 year there was perch and algae, and the next year the perch were gone and it was gobies, invasive gobies all over the wreck. So you can see the difference in just a year, which is unfortunate.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, yeah. And we've all heard about the Asian carps, and of course, in the ocean there's other kinds of species. But it's a very interesting time that we live in to see the dynamic shift in the ecosystem because of human impact, because of sometimes even unintentional human impact.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first connection with you was a few years ago during Mission 31, and we managed to, I think it was day 14 that we connected with you and a couple of the team members from the Aquarius Reef Base. Such an incredible project, living and working underwater for 31 days. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And then I think maybe you might have a couple slides to share with us.
I do. I wanted to share, let me see if I can do that while I'm chatting. Hopefully you can hear me while I do that. And bear with me while I do this. There we go. I'm assuming you can see my screen. This is the United Nations logo for sustainable goals. I put in the middle, of course, oceans, because SDG 14, which is Sustainable Development Goal 14, is the ocean. But essentially, that's what we're talking about today at the General Assembly. And of course, we talk about how the planet is a very unique ecosystem, our life support system, our oasis in space, and so on and so forth, and how it really encompasses pretty much everything that that we know that exists, that that lives and thrives, and that we depend on. And yet, we've explored less than 5% of our ocean world to date, which is an amazing thing because it gives certainly a lot of opportunity for aspiring marine biologists, adventurers, filmmakers, engineers, and so on and so forth to dive in this world and have their own discoveries, their own inventions, and to go deeper, longer, and further. Unfortunately, as we all know, the ocean is in trouble. It's in trouble in fundamental ways that most people don't get a chance to see. So I apologize for this really ugly slide, but this is the stark reality of what's out there all too often. And as we impact our fragile life support system, we're impacting ourselves in some very fundamental ways, which I'm sure that you've probably already heard of in school and through the classroom. And at the end of the day, we're all in the proverbial same boat. Very symbolic, of course, here. This was in the Maldives. It's a fishing vessel that basically hasn't been used in a very long time. And this is symbolic to me of the crisis that we're in, the sixth extinction that's for the first time in universal history, as far as we know, caused by a single species. I mean, we've lost 60% or over 60% of our world's total wild fish stocks because of overfishing. Climate change related issues are devastating not only coral reefs because of acidification, but they're also, the effects of climate change are drastically changing migratory patterns, are changing the way animals are building their shells so that the shells are more fragile. So when we look to eat lobster or any other kind of shellfish, or anything with a calcium carbonate structure, we're usually beholden to that health, and unfortunately that's going by the wayside. Of course, with Mission 31, as you mentioned, we were able to, the 6 of us, go down to the world's only undersea marine laboratory, Aquarius, and be based out of there for 31 days. But that's not the point of Aquarius, of a habitat underwater. The habitat underwater is a very unique platform to be able to give us unprecedented access to the ocean world by becoming saturation divers. You can go out there for indefinite periods of time depending on your depth. So for example, with us, we were able to go down go out into the water column and go diving 10 to 12 hours a day until we were tired, hungry, etc. We were able to go out there and monitor with all sorts of new technologies, such as this pulse amplitude modulated fluorometer, a really hard time saying that, and look at the state of reefs, the health of reefs through bioluminescence and fluorescence to see what's happening, what can be done, what are the stressors, and how we can address this better. And as was mentioned earlier, you know, it was pretty neat. For the first time on a Cousteau expedition anyway, there was Wi-Fi at the bottom of the sea. So we were able to connect with people all around the world doing live interviews with CNN and Weather Channel and so on and so forth. But also, more importantly, connect with young people and show them quite literally right then and there what's happening and what we're discovering on a day-to-day basis. And that was really probably the best gift that we could ever hope for, is to be able to connect with the outside world. Some people which will never get a chance to see this. So walking away from Mission 31, I think aside from the 12 scientific papers based on dissolved hydrocarbons and so on and so forth, and lack of predator-prey behavior because the predators are gone and so on and so forth, I think that the most important was that we were connected with the world and showing them this alien magical place that's in great need of our help. You know, at the end of the day, it's really about our connection with our planet and the fact that we're just one species and are beholden to the others and their health for our very own. And I guess this is probably very poignant here. The most important is, of course, giving back to our future generations what we as adults have taken for granted, and hopefully making them better stewards of our planet than we've ever been. You know, my grandfather's birthday, you mentioned my grandfather earlier. My grandfather was a pioneer. He was an ocean explorer, documentary filmmaker, and a voice for the oceans. He actually inspired hundreds of millions of people around the world for over 50 years, 136 documentaries. And with that said, he co-invented the aqualung and many other things, including the first underwater habitat. And it is with this in mind that in 3 days we're celebrating his birthday. And going back to what I originally said, which is probably a very basic but the most fundamental aspect of why I do what I do, which is people protect what they love what they understand, and they understand what they're taught. And that's really the premise for Mission 31 and most every one of our other endeavors as well, including, of course, all those at the Fabien Cousteau Ocean Learning Center, which, by the way, as you mentioned, we're celebrating our first year anniversary, and thanks to all the support, we're able to do that. So with that said, I'd like to pass that back on over to you.
All right.
And let me get rid of that screen.
You're back. Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And, you know, I love that quote of your grandfather's. It's one of my favorite quotes. And, you know, I grew up watching his documentaries and adventures. And, you know, I think that's a big reason why I love the ocean so much. So it's absolutely true. You love what you know. You protect what you know. So thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure.
Oh, it popped back. Can you just hit the green share screen button one more time? That should bring you back to us. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
We gotcha. All right. Well, let's meet some classrooms. But before we do, I can see we have other classrooms who are viewing online via YouTube. So if you do have any questions, let us know where you're from and fire off a question via the chat sidebar, and we'll try to get to one or two of those before the end. But for now, let's meet some of our live classrooms. So we have Mrs. Kremnitzer's group from Frederick in the United States, or a grade 6 classroom. And your microphone is on for a question.
Sure, go to us. So, which one? How deep can you go before you get too much pressure to where you can't breathe anymore with the suit on?
Well, you know, it depends on what you mean by how deep can we go. It depends on the vehicle. So if you're talking about free diving, it's the breath hold that you can sustain going down and coming back up without passing out. I think the record is somewhere around almost 400 feet. Or actually, no, that's with constant weight. Then there's variable weight. It gets very complicated. Then there's scuba diving, the deepest anyone's gone scuba diving. I think the record is right at around 1,000 feet, but that's really a bounce dive down and back up. And then, of course, there's the latest, greatest exosuit, which is a new type of suit that you can wear to go down to almost 2,000 feet and stay down there as long as you want, so you don't have the decompression obligations that you would as a diver. The problem is a partial pressure of gases, and as you go down, normally scuba divers use air, and air is fine down to about 70 meters, depending on your physiology. And the problem is that air has 21% oxygen, as you know, almost 21% oxygen. And as you go down, the pressure increases the partial pressure of oxygen to a point where oxygen actually gets toxic, and you have adverse reactions. So with that said, you probably want to stay within the recreational diving limits, depending on your dive certification, because at the end of the day, most of the fun stuff that you can see with your own eyes is really close to the surface, 60, 80, 100 feet, maybe down to 200 feet. Most anything deeper than that, you need special lights, you need special gases such as heliox, which also brings about special training, and it gets complicated very quickly.
All right, great question, guys. Thanks so much. Let's jump to Mr. Atkinson's group. They are joining us from Barrie, Ontario, so in Canada. They're a grade 6 classroom. Let me go ahead and turn your microphone on.
We do apologize. We're probably gonna need to wait just a little bit because we have announcements right now.
Okay, you want me to swing back? I'll get you guys at the end? All right, perfect. All right, well, Mrs. Larmer's group is joining us. This is a group joining us from North Bay in Canada. They open it to the whole school because they don't start till 8:30. So I think upwards to 80 plus students came in for this morning. So I'm sure they've got a great question for us. So let me turn on the microphone.
All right, Phoebe, you're up. Okay, stand right here and look at the camera. You're up, Phoebe.
Hi, Phoebe.
If you went scuba diving anywhere in the world, where would you go?
That's such a difficult question to answer because there are so many beautiful places, and depending on what you love, there's beautiful places in cold water, in temperate water, and warm water. I guess my short answer would be one of the places I fell in love with when I was 7 years old, scuba diving. I've been scuba diving since I was 4. Now, that's not normal. Normally, you start at 11 or 12. But my answer to this would probably be Papua New Guinea. Now, there are other places I'd love to go, too. Yeah, it is a beautiful place.
Very good answer. All right. Mrs. Patterson's class, they're joining us from Quebec, from Gaspé. They're a group of 5 and 6, grade 5 and 6 students, and your microphone should be on.
Okay, Hope, ask your question.
Does 3D printed coral act like real coral?
Yeah, so to get a little bit deeper into the 3D printed coral, we're printing the structure of coral itself. I don't know if you know, if you've studied coral yet, but coral is basically a symbiotic relationship between the zooxanthellae, which are the fleshy stuff on the outside of the coral, and the stony structure, which is made of calcium carbonate. And that symbiotic relationship makes the coral live and thrive and so on and so forth, grow either at a centimeter a year, a centimeter a century, depending on the species. And what we do is we build the structure a little bit like, imagine a city like New York City and building a new building that has a lot of room for people to move into. We're building the structure, so a virgin structure with no competition from other animals, so that the zooxanthellae can come in and settle on this structure. Now, it's a little more complicated than that because we also encourage that zooxanthellae to come in through various scientific means. As a matter of fact, we also have nurseries where we have the zooxanthellae settle on the 3D coral, printed coral, and then we bring it out to the final destination on the reef. So the short version is we build the structures and we invite the guests, the zooxanthellae, to populate it. We're also hybridizing the coral so that it's better resistant to climate change related issues, so that there's a chance for it to survive.
All right. Again, such a cool project and a great question from our classroom in Quebec. Let's jump to YouTube. We have a question coming in from a classroom watching. This is Mrs. Yateman's class, and they're wondering about special training before Mission 31.
There's a lot of special training. It's Mission 31. Think about becoming an aquanaut like becoming an astronaut. There's a lot of physiological training. There's a lot of psychological training. You're essentially in the inner space station. It's the same volume of living space. It's the same segregation from all the things that you know on land. And it is exactly the same in terms of the parameters to make sure that everyone are healthy, are safe, are ready to be isolated and to be in an extreme environment for extended periods of time.
All right. Thank you for that question from online, and keep them coming. We still have a little bit of time, so we can probably squeeze some in. Let's visit Mr. Candela's class. They're joining us from Kingston, Ontario, and they're grade 7 class. So microphone should be on. Oh, there they are. Mr. Candela, your microphone's on if you guys have a question.
Yes, our screen froze for a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
Stand up. If you weren't studying oceans or doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing instead?
It's a very good question. I love adventure. I love going out, and last thing I like is being at a desk. I don't like being at a desk. That's just me. But what I would probably do, I'd probably be a teacher, but I would probably do a lot of experiential learning and going out into the field with students. What kind of students, I don't know, but that'd probably be what I would do. It's take people on an adventure.
Good answer. Teachers are pretty cool. A little biased in that opinion, but yeah.
Yeah, they are. They are.
All right, Mr. Atkinson's group. Let's see if those announcements have wrapped up. How's it going over there?
Oh, it's going a lot better now. We can hear you, and you can hear us.
Excellent.
We have Lucas here.
What was the most fascinating thing you found about living underwater that you did not know about before?
Whew. There's so many things. From the most dangerous creature on the planet in the oceans, which is human beings, to the fact that our ocean ecosystem heals very quickly if we give it a chance, or can heal very quickly if we give it a chance, to the life and death battle between an octopus and a mantis shrimp. I mean, there's a laundry list of things that I learned. As a matter of fact, every dive you learn something new. So it's really pretty amazing place, and at the same time, it's a place that needs to be explored and cherished and protected.
So I remember from our hangout a few years ago that there was one aspect of the journey that wasn't sitting so well, and it was the food after a little while.
Well, for Mission 31, we learned a lot, and we learned a lot of things. For example, thankfully our sense of taste went dull because we were eating freeze-dried food morning, noon, and evening, and I can tell you that it is one of the worst experiences. You'd think that contusions and other problems, ear infections, all that would be bad, but the food was awful. And we also learned how to evacuate underwater. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
What goes in must go out. Let's put it that way.
Yes, yes. I'm sure that was a interesting experience, to say the least.
It certainly was.
So Mission 31 now, it was a few years ago. How's the legacy continuing?
Well, you know, Mission 31 was a huge encouragement for us to look at various platforms and maybe revisit opportunities such as habitats or building of habitats so that we can use them to go deeper and longer and further, not only physically but also in our knowledge. So we're pretty excited about that. At the same time, being able to craft a platform that engages people in various ways specific to their needs and their desires and their curiosity is something that's been forefront on our project list, as well, of course, as the quintessential documentary series that we're working on right now, and a 3D IMAX called Mysteries of the Sea, which will be coming out, I think, next year. So.
Awesome. Great. Well, it's good to see that you're keeping busy, and there's so much that you're doing, even though you're trapped behind a desk a little more than you might like to be. You know, thank you again. I mean, talking to you on World Ocean Day is pretty special, and sharing some of your experiences and what you're doing. And I know you've got a big day at the UN today, so I wish you the best of luck with that. I'm sure it'll be a good time.
Thank you so much. And as a fellow explorer, you know the desire to want to go out there and explore and learn more and just really immerse yourself in this amazing, unique planet. And I can't thank you enough for gathering all of us today. For the young people out there, you are the solution. Don't let other people tell you that it's impossible, because it is not. Strike that word from the dictionary. And you can do it, and we will help you. And together, we're going to make this a better place to live, and one worthy of giving back to you. So happy World Ocean Day. I wish you all the best of luck and the best of summers. And I thank you for having me.
Amazing. Fabien, again, thank you so much. Perfect message to end off. I'm going to turn the microphones on and let the classroom say goodbye and thank you. And then we'll sign off for today. So here we go. It's going to get loud.
Bye, everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you all.
Once again, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of World Ocean Day, and we'll see you on another Hangout. Thanks, Fabien.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.